So again, thank you all for joining.
Hey everybody, my name is Malia Kirkland, and Paul took most of the things that I normally say, right, giving the background of the coalition. But I think it's really powerful to have that much community support and intentionality coming to these races, because as Paul said, like the school board is a mess, and we're really ready for some real change. So my role is, I know most of you. I worked on Deb Patterson's campaign ended a couple months ago. So I'm happy to be back here with you all. We are kind of approaching these campaigns kind of as a group, but also separately. So as of tomorrow, in about 24 hours, we'll know, what each individual race looks like, who has filed in each race. And so that'll give us a clearer idea of how we need to approach it. But we do know we have really tough fights ahead, whether that's strong opponents, strong incumbents, multiple opponents, or whatever that looks like. Everybody's situation is different, but we do know that the Right to Life and the, conservative groups are not ready to lose these seats. So we are making sure to have as organized of a campaign as possible. I'm one of many staff people working on this. Staff time is getting in-kinded from Pekun and from Stand for Children, which is really awesome to have, a group of people all working towards sharing the load of running these 4 campaigns during COVID, in a really big geographical area. So I don't know, Paul, is there anything else that I should be talking about?
No, I think that covers it. We've got house parties going on. We got lots of things going on for these candidates. So
got house parties, we'll have postcards, we'll have lots of phone banking as usual. And we've got some lawn signs coming in soon. So it is a regular COVID campaign we've got going.
So at the end of the candidate presentations, and after we have a chance for some Q&As, we're going to post the website for Community for Salem Keizer Schools, which is the name of this coalition. And that website has links to each of the candidates, more information about the candidates, also has links to donate, also has links to volunteer. So we'll post all that information as soon as the candidates are finished, so we can focus on them for the next part of the meeting, and then give people the links and you can follow them to your heart's content. So thank you, Malia. So I'm going to turn it over to Melanie Zermer, who's going to MC the candidate portion of this meeting. So Melanie, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. I'm Melanie Zermer. I'm a member of the RJOC Coordinating Committee. I'll introduce each of the candidates. They'll talk for 3 to 4 minutes. They'll go in order of zones, starting with zone 1. And then after each one of them speaks, then there'll be the question and answer. So we'll start with zone 1. Osvaldo Avila. Osvaldo is the son of a Mexican immigrant farm worker who has few opportunities in life. His father had to drop out of school in the 3rd grade. Growing up, teachers dismissed Osvaldo's potential and called him a future ditch digger. Yet he believed his education was important and ultimately earned a master's in education and leadership and policy from PSU, Portland State University. He has an 18-year career in higher education, focusing on helping Latinx students gain access to and succeed in college. He's now a talent, innovation, and equity administrator with the Oregon Higher Education Coordinating Commission. Welcome, Osvaldo.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you and providing this opportunity for not just me speaking, but also my fellow candidates who are amazing, and you'll be glad to hear from them shortly. So if you allow me to just elaborate a little bit more about my background and that was shared. Yes, I'm one of 6 proud children of Mexican immigrant farm workers. I was born in Idaho as my parents were following the crops, and eventually we ended up staying in Independence, Oregon, where I grew up. But now I live in West Salem, and with my wife and our wonderful, beautiful daughter, 6th grade, and our budding son, who's an 8th grader. And so I'm looking forward. They're both getting excited to return to the schools and join their fellow classmates, but they're anxious. And so it's all understandable, and we'll be addressing those issues as well. Education was a very strong value for my parents as we were growing up, and they came to this country to provide that opportunity for us. And through the many years of my parents not understanding exactly how the education process work, they can only continue to offer their support, a support that I did not receive through a lot of my teachers or even counselors. And one even ended up telling me I'd be a future ditch digger. And I almost allowed that to happen. I almost allowed that to defeat me. However, I moved on. So I know the value, I know the struggles, I know what the real challenges that students have when they feel like they've been left behind, because it almost happened to me. So many years, a few years later after graduating high school, I eventually started to return to Chemeketa Community College and enrolled there. And that's where I came and realized the disparities in education and college to access to college and career and technical education. I saw it among the new friends I had, and I saw it among my future wife, and she impressed me. She inspired me to pursue the type of career in education because of the challenges that she overcame. And I was just, hopefully one day you all be able to get to meet her, because it truly is a calling. How I changed my career from an accounting business degree to pursue a college, an education degree at Portland State University. So since then, I made it a career to advocate for younger generations, to help them, inspire them, and to create and demonstrate pathways to a better future through education reforms. And it has to start with our youth. And what better way for me to be able to do that as serving as a school board member in the Salem Keizer School District. I want to create environments that are inclusive, make our schools culturally competent and accepting to the diversity that we have in this community, be able to support our teachers and educators and our administrators so that they are reflective and meet the needs of our diverse communities. I want to make schools a place where the parents and students can engage with the educators and through collaborative partnerships. With my experiences, I'll be able to create innovative strategies to work and connect and partner with our communities. I feel I'm uniquely positioned to advocate for all families, regardless of their backgrounds. I'm bilingual, I'm bicultural. I understand the challenges of living in this dominant culture, but understand the priorities of my family and heritage, and similar to many of our minorities and our students of color. My priority will be to bring to light the injustices of our traditionally marginalized students that they have lived through, to succeed and graduate with the tools, the resources, and especially the encouragement to pursue post-secondary educational opportunities. In closing, I'm asking you to vote for me, to support me, to support my fellow colleagues, to vote for all of us if you can, to get the word out, because as it was shared, this school board needs reform, and we're here today to be able to offer our positions, our talent, and our commitment to serve our community through the Salem School Board. Again, running for School Board Zone 1. Thank you very much for listening to us, and I look forward to engaging with you and follow up with questions. Thank you very much, and I pass it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So our next candidate will be from Zone 3, Ashley Carson Cottingham. Ashley is a fifth-generation Oregonian whose grandparents were farmers and educators. She's an attorney who has spent her life advocating for children, seniors, people with disabilities, and accessible health care. Her accomplished career includes working for a U.S. Senate Committee on Healthcare and serving as director of the Oregon Office of Aging and People with Disabilities. She's now the deputy director of the State Office of Long-Term Care Ombudsman. Thank you and welcome, Ashley.
Thank you so much, Melanie. I'm really happy to be here this evening talking to all of you. It's good to see familiar faces and some new ones. So as Melanie said, my name is Ashley Carson Cottingham. I'm running for Salem Keizer School Board Zone 3. And, as a working mom, I know how hard this last year has been for our home. But I also know that so many people have been much harder hit than our family. So many have lost jobs, lost loved ones, and I really think a lot of our kids have fallen behind. I'm a product of Oregon Public Schools. I grew up in the Ben Lapine School District. My grandfather was a public high school teacher there where he taught conservation and agriculture. And my grandmother was an elementary school secretary. Both of them made huge contributions to children and families and had a big influence on my growing up. I know that I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for some of my teachers growing up. They really helped me when I was being bullied, and they kept on trying when I just could not get the hang of calculus. We have great educators like that here in the Salem Keizer School District, and I will fight alongside them to make sure that our schools can give every kid the individual focus they need. All my life, I have fought for vulnerable people, from standing up in court as an appointed special advocate to taking calls in the middle of the night from domestic violence victims on a hotline when I was in law school. Later, I worked in Washington, D.C. as an executive director of a national nonprofit women's organization and for 2 different US senators to improve policies around hunger, healthcare, retirement security, and equal pay. I truly believe that public service makes a difference. Now at my current job, I advocate for people in nursing homes and other long-term care facilities, who, as we all know, along with our BIPOC communities, have been hardest hit by the pandemic. It's so important that we continue to protect one another and get our kids back into the classrooms full-time as soon as we can do it safely. I'm running for school board because I think we need new and strong leadership. When we have a school board that truly listens to parents and students and takes action based on what they're hearing, that's when the democratic process is working. I will work tirelessly as both an advocate and an ally to improve our schools for my children and for yours. Please vote for me, Ashley Carson Cottingham, this May for Zone 3 for Salem Keizer School Board. Thanks again for the invite for all of us to be here tonight. And thank you for your role in helping all 4 of us candidates run the races that we're able to run, and for the thoughtful process that you went through to gain community support. I know that it's going to make a difference, and we've really got to do it this May. Thanks.
Thank you. So now we'll hear from Zone 5, Karina Guzman Ortiz. Karina is the proud daughter of immigrants from Hidalgo, Mexico. Raised in Salem and now the mother of 2 children in Salem Keizer Schools, she has deep roots in our ever-growing and transforming Latinx community. She'll bring a great experience to the board, from working as a substitute teacher in the school district to running Capacis Youth Program and working for community-based organizations to build and strengthen community and family relationships. Karina has earned a master's of social work at Portland State University and now works in the early learning division of the Oregon Department of Education. Welcome, Karina.
Hey everyone, just like magic, we are here. Thanks for your flexibility, and thanks for the introduction. Again, my name is Karina Guzman Ortiz, and I am a mother of 2 and a student of our Salem Keizer School District. I graduated from our schools and attended from kindergarten all throughout. And, you know, as we've gone through this pandemic, it's been really a challenge, right, to do it with 2 little ones at home and transitioning from work. And then running this campaign, and it's an incredible opportunity, and it's also just such a different experience being in this pandemic. And I think about our families and our students who have just dealt with so much. And so as we continue to transition back into school, right, here I am, I'm actually just, the youth that I work with just left or kind of transitioning out. I have one kind of hanging out here still, but they're preparing to get back into the classroom, and some of them are super excited about going back in. And I have several, of our students who are not ready to do that because their families are asking them to stay home. And also because some of them have just thrived and have preferred this distance learning method, and so they're choosing to do that. And so I think that there's just so much that we can learn from everything that's happened with COVID, and as we move forward, making sure that we center the health and the safety of our students, our families, and our educators. And I'm running because it's our district just needs the courageous representation that centers our families, our youth, and that acknowledges everyone's different experiences. I really, oh goodness, my camera. I want to come on the board and then be as inclusive of our communities, to be receptive, to be a listener, and to take much needed action as we move forward. And so, in my role, working with families over the years, working in Head Start, working in education. I was a substitute teacher for our district, and I got to see being in different schools across the district in elementary, walking with the kindergartners down the hall, being in the high school English class, the high school math class, and, in our middle schools, which I just applaud our middle school educators. I have seen and I've had a glimpse of just the different needs across our district and just the amazing work that our educators are doing day in and day out. And I continue to be an advocate for our families, our children in my current role as well, right? Always thinking about how can we connect systems, how can we connect, our educational systems to the really, to the ground, right, to the community. And that includes families, but also includes the organizations and the groups that are organizing and working together. So I just, here I am a little scrambled with my brain, having jumping from one thing to another, but that's how it is. That's how life is. That's what being a mom is. And I am committed to doing this work and to being a listener. So I appreciate everyone being here today, and best way to support is absolutely please vote. And there's, we're each fundraising for our campaigns. We have the coalition supporting us as well, but more than anything, please vote, please spread the word, share our names, because we need to get the word out. Off your election, it's not on everyone's radars. And then, as we know, an at-large election it's not an easy feat. So thanks already for being here and for your time. And I am open for questions. Please feel free to reach out, give me a call, send me an email, reach out online. I want to be there to listen and to respond to your.
Thank you. Now we'll go to the candidate who's running in Zone 7, Maria Hinojos Pressey. Maria is the mother of a preschool and bilingual bicultural family. She has a master's in sociology and is the operation director at PECUN, Oregon's Farm Workers Union, and works also with the Willamette Valley Law Project. She's a committed volunteer and Latinx community advocate serving on Chariot's Board of Directors, Keizer Points of Interest Committee, Salem Keizer Coalition for Equality, Lutheran Family Services, Refugee Assistance. So Maria, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. So excited to be in these spaces. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity to run to support all of our students. I know that this pandemic has really been difficult for a lot of us. I tell this story that almost exactly a year ago now, right in the middle of the pandemic, right at the beginning of the pandemic, right when mask orders went in place, I moved from Keizer to Northeast Salem, and there was a bunch of children out in the street playing, and my daughter really wanted to go meet them and introduce herself to them. She's a very social person, and I didn't feel comfortable with that, and it just broke her heart. And it made me realize that this was going to be a long and difficult process of having to isolate ourselves from our loved ones and from making new friends and new connections because of this pandemic. So I completely understand, parents' concern about returning to schools and students' concerns as well. And I really remember what it's like to be a scared kid in this big world. Growing up my whole life, I've always been that support person to my parents. Like I remember going to my mother's grandmother's like doctor's appointments to translate about what her doctor was telling her. I've filed taxes and submitted bids for my dad's construction company when he was doing that. And I also got to tag along to a lot of my mother's jobs. And I got to see firsthand what it's like to have a teacher that can take extra care and take care of our students, and how much they can flourish, how they go from being the troubled child to just amazing and being able to learn and surpassing all of the marks. And also the way that she could support their families, because she was that bridge that was able to connect the parents to the rest of the teachers if they couldn't speak English, and was able to advocate for these students as well to make sure that they were getting the attention and the care that they needed. And I want to make sure that we're creating spaces for our parents and our students to have a voice in the decisions that are affecting their lives every day. I want to be that person that helps create space for them and advocates for them. Also because I understand what it's like to be the child of immigrants that don't speak English and all the other responsibilities that you have on top of just going to school and doing your homework. I really appreciate your folks' support, and I'm so excited to hopefully get to know you folks a little bit more over the course of tonight.
Thank you. So that concludes each of our candidates telling us a little bit about them. Now is the opportunity for you to ask questions. And I'm not sure if I clarified the process, but in the chat, people have been asked to ask questions by typing in their question. And Christy will then read the question. And another thing to think about when asking the question is this to all the candidates or one of the candidates? And again, the candidates' names for Zone 1 is Osvaldo Avila. For Zone 3, Ashley Carson Cottingham. Zone 5, Karina Guzman Ortiz. And for Zone 7, Maria Hinojos Pressey. So at this point, I'm going to ask Christy, are there any questions in the chat at this time?
Hi, Melanie, it's Michelle. I'm not seeing Christy here, and I'm not seeing any questions in the chat right now.
Well, then here's this. Is it myself? Yeah. Why don't we do it this way then? If people have a question, is there a way that they can raise their hand on this system, Michelle?
Yes, they absolutely can. Depending on what version of Zoom you have, you may find it in the reactions tab. There's a little smiley face, or there may simply be a tab that says raise hand.
Okay. And as people figure out how to do that, we do have a question in the chat. And if Christy isn't here, I'll go ahead and ask it. And it looks like it's to all the candidates. The question is, what are your thoughts about how to create more opportunities for the school board and leadership to hear students, parents, and community members' voices? And at this point, I'll just start with Avila. Do you have an answer ready for us?
Yes. So how to create more opportunities for the school board leadership to hear students, parents, and community members' voices? That's a great question. Thank you very much, Lori. I think we're all in agreement to be able to be flexible and adjustable to meet our community where they are. You know, start offering our school board meetings different times and be present to their events that we get invited to. Go listen to them. One of the best thing that we can do to make this person most effective change would be to change the transparency of the board, to change how we're willing to accept and listen to our community, our students, our parents, and organizations. It's so crucial for us to be able to be informed on on their concerns, so for us to be able to make betterly informed decisions that are going to provide better outcomes for our community members, and be able to have them be present and voice their concern and participate in our meetings. So those are just one simple ways. If I'll allow my colleagues that are going to share this, they can share and then provide further input as well.
Great, thank you. And I'll just go at this, for this question, just go down the same list as before. So Ashley, your response?
Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting because we're getting to the point in the campaign where the four of us have met so frequently and talked about what we think we can do together and collectively, that a lot of our answers are very similar. I think we're all really aligned, which is really exciting for the future of the board. But definitely, I think we need to do the community outreach in advance, not expect people just to show up to a nighttime meeting. That can be really intimidating. And, for some families, it's just not going to work. What I'd really like to see is the meetings offered at different times of day, different days of the week. Like, let's plan to have some weekend meet opportunities so that we're accommodating different work schedules, and really building the relationships, like Osvaldo mentioned, with various communities, entities, groups. We want to be out there in the community knowing what people want out of their public school system, and us to be able to really influence the way that we make decisions moving forward on behalf of everyone.
Maybe Melanie's internet is being unfriendly. This is Michelle. I wonder if any of the other candidates who are with us would like to take a turn at answering that first question about helping parents and students' voices be heard.
I don't really have much else to add to what my colleagues have said. I think we're all pretty much on the same page about the importance of meeting our community where they're at. Definitely agree wholeheartedly with Ashley's point of switching up meeting times so that they're more flexible for folks depending on their work schedules. Another big thing that I would like to see if we could implement would be offering childcare and maybe some meals to just increase our accessibility to some folks.
I saw, if it's okay, I saw a question in the chat, and what are your thoughts about continuing EDGE next year? That's a good question too. We haven't come across that, and I think it really just going to rely on what our experts are saying, and also where the position of this pandemic is, and if we need to continue with that. But we're going to have to get more informed, and I personally don't feel I'm comfortable to be able to provide an answer, other than if we're in the same situation, I'm gonna be able to provide and support safety measures and approaching education and providing the education on behalf of the teachers and educators and to our students to remain safe, to remain social distancing. But other than that, I think we're gonna have to continue developing, or just keep an eye on how things are moving, and listening to our educators, listening to our science and experts, Oregon Health Authority, and working with our community members. So that's what I would have to say to that right now.
I can jump into on the EDGE program. I think it's been really, I think Karina brought this up in her opening, just that it's been a really wonderful program for some kids. Like it can be really beneficial for people that have been struggling with the regular classroom sort of style of learning. And so I think we should be flexible and open to what parents and kids need from us as far as accommodating coming out of the pandemic. I think it's going to be a really big shock to the system to have everyone just right back to how it was. Like, I just don't think it'll ever be the same. And so we have to be creative and flexible and make sure that we're working with kids to figure out what they need and how to get them comfortable. And, I'm really interested to hear people's experience. I know my son did EDGE the first half of the year and then transitioned into the hybrid model, and so that he could go back in person. He just went back last week, and we really liked EDGE, and we really like the hybrid version. He's a very social little guy, and so he wants to be, with kids in person and out on the playground as much as possible. But I know that's not the case for every family. So I'd like to do as much listening as possible.
So I think I'm back. Is Maria the only one who has not responded to this question?
Yeah,
Maria, you want to speak to this one too?
I for the sake of time, I don't feel like I can add anything else that Ashley or Osvaldo hasn't said. That's kind of the downside of going at the end.
True. We're going to start with you next, Maria. So hang on. We do have a question in the chat. First of all, thanks so much for your running. Please share some of your ideas and thoughts about what the district can do to further address systematic racism in the school district and to work towards racial equity. Maria?
Give me the hard one. No. So I think that we've all seen that our board has very little understanding of systemic racism or racial equity currently. There's definitely a lot of things that I think we could come in and start implementing. Of course, like the simple answers would be to start like doing like DEIA trainings for all of our staff, just kind of as district-wide as possible, and creating policies that would really have no tolerance for any sort of microaggressions of like xenophobia, homophobia, racism. But also, I think that we really need to start pushing to, sorry, I got distracted by the chat. We really need to start pushing to ensuring that we're getting teachers of color, staff, support staff of color, folks that could really help our students see themselves as adults. I think that's really important for them to be able to picture a future for themselves. I think a big step has really been made in not renewing the SRO contract, but that also comes with another hurdle of like, what are we going to implement to make sure that all of our students are safe? I really think that we really also need to start looking at culturally responsive ways to support our students, especially now that we have a little bit of money freed up from not having to have SROs. I think I'll pass it on to Ashley. I think I saw her say something in the chat.
Thanks. I was just responding. Claire had asked what DEIA stood for. So you would use that term, Maria. So I was just writing it out. So it stands for diversity, equity, inclusion, and then and access. I had to look that one up. So, I think this is something that is such a big topic for our school district to address. We've seen some really egregious behavior over the last year that is just outrageous in my opinion. And so I think we need a lot of education, like Maria said, it feels that the large majority of the current board really don't understand what we're all talking about, what parents are talking about, what the superintendent is talking about when she and they talk about equity. And so I think, you know, hopefully all four of us will win. And, you know I will continue to need education and training so I can be the best ally I can possibly be. But at least we will have a majority on the board who take this very seriously and want to deconstruct the practices that have been in place in the district for a long time that really, have been implemented or instituted over time, over decades, with racism built in. And it's not necessarily racism that is on its face, but it's structural in nature. And so you have to really look at why was a decision made 20 years ago that has the impact of excluding our Latinx students, and what can we do? And that's just as an example. What can we do to change that practice by changing policy, reinvesting money, being more inclusive, hiring the staff that reflect the community, asking all those hard questions about what we can do. We're going to have the power of the budget to be able to influence the way that things go for the coming decade. And we can choose to stop having the structural racism there and to stop having bias built in to the fullest extent possible and really change things for the future. But it's going to be hard work, and it's going to be extra hard if we have half of the board that really has no interest in engaging in that discussion or doesn't really believe that racism exists.
Thank you, Ashley. We have two more candidates, Karina and Osvaldo, who can respond to that question. And we plan on ending in about 5 minutes. So we'll take the answer to this question from both of you. And then I think I'm going to give it back to Paul, unless he wants to continue with the question and answer. So I see Osvaldo, you are there on the screen. And if so, I'll let you go next. And if Karina is around, we'll ask her to join us last on this question. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Equity, how do we make this district more equitable and being able to provide real opportunities for our students? And that is just right, the way that Ashley spoke about, is being able to deconstruct and unpack all those policies that are in place. And first and foremost, I want to be able to take this board and make it public, to be an anti-racist board, to address the shift in our way that we're thinking, and embed our the equity lens that has been supported and adopted by currently the Higher Education Coordinating Commission, which I work for, and then the Oregon Department of Education. And we should continue to develop and utilize the equity lens that the school board has also adopted, but actually really use it and really understand the function of it, because our current board does not seem to understand the value of equity and then the practices of it. So we are very passionate in this manner to be more equitable, to be more inclusive, and address the challenges our Native American students have by bringing in and empowering them through the curriculum changes, empowering our Black African American youth and our other immigrant and refugee groups, our Marshallese and Latinx students. And it's simple changes that we can address throughout the district, addressing hiring bias practices, creating opportunities of education and training so that we're culturally responsive and practicing culturally relevant practices and policies. There's just so much that we can do to be more successful, more engaging, and more open to our communities, and understand those challenges, and then uplifting them and moving forward to be more a thriving community, a thriving education school district. So Melanie, I'll pass it back to you. But I think Karina might be busy. Malia, if you can help respond to Karina's position right now.
Yeah, we do understand that Karina had to go back to work. So let's see, Paul, it's not quite 6:50. So do you want to go with another question, or do you want to move forward with the meeting? What's your pleasure?
Is there another question out there? Maybe one more question?
I actually have a question, but I don't have time to type it into the chat.
Okay.
Well, what I'm interested in is, if all of you don't get elected and only one of you or two of you do, how are you going to, the people that are still there are Marty Hyen, Danielle Bethel, and Satya Chandagiri. How can you imagine being able to work with them to move the whole board forward? Who'd like to take that one first?
I know that we would definitely be in the minority if not all of us won, and there would be a lot of work on our end, an uphill battle to try and get more progressive policies passed or just acknowledged. But I definitely believe that, I mean, I can be really annoying. And I would not let up, that ensuring that we're allowing people to have public comment, that it doesn't have to be written beforehand, because that's very unequitable and difficult to access for our folks that are have difficulty reading or writing, or just don't speak English or know how to write English. So that's just a brief little comment on my end. I don't know if my colleagues want to share something.
Ashley or Osvaldo?
Yeah, I agree with Maria, and I've been thinking about, why if I were not to get voted on, and I just understand the complexity of my opponents, and then my background, my experience, my educational experience, my professional experiences, and why we can't vote, and to have candidates and individuals that are open-minded and want to provide a platform for our students and our educators to perform at a level in a district backed by education and science, proven strategies, best practice that help elevate our students, that help elevate our educators, connect to our students, and provide them with the right opportunities, the teaching opportunities, the resources and the tools of engaging our communities, so that we can all thrive and be successful. And so I've been thinking about that and what I would do for different next steps, and how I wouldn't let up. And I would still be there in the back, supporting one of my fellow colleagues that are going to get voted on, to help move their agendas forward for a better and more inclusive school board. And like Maria was saying, I would just learn to continue striving and advocating for these changes that need to happen, providing education opportunities, and working with the fellow board members that are not thinking as clearly as they need to be more inclusive for the community and serving their priorities and not their own agendas. But like Maria put it really good, being annoying. I would be hard-headed and stubborn to help push these things through, or at least get them to reconsider their positions and through education and knowledge and information, so that they can make better informed decisions. But I would be advocating for all the students who need to have that voice there, and that we're going to be bringing. So I hope that can be effective throughout that time, but we would have very challenging days.
Thank you. Ashley, do you have a response?
Yeah, I think, if that occurs, which I hope it does not, I hope we all win in May, it will be challenging to say the least. But what I can say is that, you know, I've been in a similar position before where, you know, when I worked on Capitol Hill, I worked for a very progressive member, and we were the chair of a committee. And so we had to work with the ranking members staff, which like ideologically completely far ends of the scale. And so, you know, I think the first thing you have to do is just try to build that human relationship. Even if you really don't agree on most everything, you know, trying to get to know the other people, get to know what they're passionate about. And through building, I think that really human-based relationship, you can sometimes see eye to eye on things that you maybe didn't think were possible before. I'm not going to say that that's always going to work. I know that it won't, but I'm committed to trying to build those relationships. And, you know, I think working in state government as well, you know, same thing. We all, I think, have jobs where we have those skills of having to work with people who don't believe the same things that we believe. And, but we all have been in positions of leadership and know how to really, I think, increase the professionalism of the board and really try to refocus on what the kids and the teachers need to be successful. So I think, again, I hope we all win, but I think that any one of us being on will improve the quality of the school board.
Thank you, Ashley. So Paul, it's 5 to 7. How do you want to take it from here?
Okay, first of all, I want to thank the candidates for coming to our meeting tonight. And we will be posting this on our website and Facebook page. So hopefully you'll have a much larger audience as well as our members and others begin to log into this meeting and get to hear what you had to say. So thanks all of you for participating. What I'd like to ask Malia to do right now is to post the the Communities for Salem Keizer School website in our chat. We also will have this posted on our website and our Facebook page as well. But that link to the Community for Salem Keizer Schools, right on the front page is a donation box. And at the bottom of the page is a volunteer form that you can fill out. Probably the coordinating committee at the end of this meeting will talk about having a date that we try to focus volunteers from our JOC to be just like select a day, but we would like to volunteer for any time you're available, phone banks, there'll be a lot of work to be done. So thanks again to the candidates. And for those both here, and I know a lot of people who are on this call right now have already contributed to the campaign. Those who may be watching this by video, I'm going to issue an ask. We need to win all 4 of these seats. We cannot have this situation continue where the school board that really denies the voices of the students and parents. So we need to win. What's it take to win? It takes volunteers and it takes materials and the kinds of things that cost money. So if you can pledge tonight, those of us that are here at the meeting can pledge in the chat. Go on the website and try to complete that pledge and make a donation to the campaign. We'd like to be able to raise at least $1,000 from RJOC members over the course of the next couple of days. I know that I've already contributed, but I'm going to make another pledge to right now in the chat. So all of you watching this online, all of you who are going to sign in on our link to this presentation on the Facebook page or on our website, please consider donating what you can to this campaign. Campaigns are expensive. We're going to be up against well-funded opponents. Oregon Right to Life has dumped thousands of dollars into these races in the past, and they seem to have one agenda item, and we're up against some fairly right-wing, potentially right-wing candidates. So contribute what you can. And we got the link there. I think now's the time to let our candidates go and wish them well. I know they've got a lot of meetings and a lot of house parties to go to. So thanks again to all our candidates. And I welcome all of you to join on video, take your video on so you can applaud the candidates with us. And we can all let them see our faces before they go. Okay, thank you again, Osvaldo, Ashley, Maria, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
You're
We
welcome to
so
stay.
appreciate it.
You're welcome to stay for our membership meeting if you want, but you're also welcome to